In the world of fighting, there were many people who talked big. They liked to shout, brag, and tell everyone how great they were. But no one talked louder or acted tougher than a fighter named Jackson Blaze C. Jackson. Jackson Blaze was the UFC light heavyweight champion. That means he was the best fighter in his group. He was only 28 years old, very strong, and super fast. He had never lost a fight. Not even one. He won many of his fights by punching and kicking very hard, knocking out the other fighters. And he always talked and joked about his opponents. He said he was the best fighter in the whole world, even better than people from the past. One night, after a big fight in Madison Square Garden, a huge stadium full of fans, Jackson won again. He beat his opponent in less than 2 minutes. The crowd cheered. At the press conference, with cameras and reporters around, Jackson smiled big and leaned into the microphone. He said something that made everyone stop and listen. "I've beaten all the best fighters," Jackson said. "There's no one left, unless that old movie guy Steven Seagal wants to try." The crowd went quiet for a moment. Then people giggled. "Yeah, I said it," Jackson said, laughing. "Steven, if you can still walk, come and fight me. I'll put you in a retirement home where you belong." Some reporters laughed. Some looked shocked. Soon, Twitter and the internet were full of the news. People started writing hashtags Seagal versus Blaze everywhere. Most thought it was just a silly joke. Jackson had no one else to fight, so maybe he was just being funny. But one person wasn't laughing. Steven Seagal's answer. Steven Seagal was a 72-year-old martial artist. A long time ago, he made action movies where he fought bad guys. But in real life, he was also a real black belt and very skilled. He lived quietly on a ranch in Montana, away from all the noise. He had horses, guitars, and students who came to learn from him. When his students showed him the video of Jackson talking, Steven just stared at the SC Jackson. His face was calm, like still water. "Are you going to let that go, sensei?" One student asked him. Steven said quietly, he asked for something he's not ready for. The next morning, Steven did something surprising. He posted a short video online. He looked into the camera and said only, "Blaze Creed, I heard you. Be careful what you ask for." Only 9 words. But those 9 words hit the internet like a thunderstorm. Fans, fighters, and even old champions started reacting. Some people laughed. Others got excited. Could it be real? Could this old movie star actually fight the young champion? 2 days later, Mark Bronson, the UFC president, made it official. He said there would be a special fight. 1 round. Open rules. Not for a title, but for charity. But it would be real. The fight is on. When Jackson heard the news, he laughed on TV. "Easy money," he told ESPN. "I'll crush him and hang the photo on my wall." But Jackson didn't know what was coming. Steven Seagal wasn't just an actor. He was a 7th Dan black belt in Aikido, a type of martial arts that uses your opponent's energy against them. He also trained in Kenjutsu, a sword fighting art. He had taught Special Forces soldiers how to fight. Steven didn't fight for fun. He fought with focus, quiet, and purpose. The fight was going to happen at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. They called it Clash of the Eras, which means a battle between 2 very different times, the new and the old. People could not believe it. The young champion Jackson Blaze, full of power, speed, and style, was going to fight a 72-year-old man who hadn't been in a real match for decades. Jackson mocks the master. Since the day Steven said yes, Jackson doubled down on his jokes. He made funny videos on Instagram, pretending to wear a ponytail like Steven. He spoke in a soft, slow voice to mock him. On podcasts, he made fun of Steven's old movie moves. "He's going to try and flip me like in a movie," Jackson laughed. "I hope he brings a stuntman or a nurse." Steven didn't say anything back. No interviews. No replies. Then one day, someone posted a short video of Steven training. In the clip, Steven was working with a younger student. The student ran at him with full energy. Steven moved slowly, almost gently, and flipped the student easily, using almost no effort. The video was quiet. No loud music. No shouting. Just perfect balance. Like a strong wind moving a leaf. That video went viral. Millions watched it. Some were amazed. Some were scared for Jackson. Fight night. Finally, it was the night of the fight. The MGM Grand was full. Every seat was taken. Famous fighters, movie stars, and even soldiers came to see this strange and exciting match. Backstage, Steven sat in a small quiet room. His eyes were closed. He was breathing slowly. He wore a simple black GI, a martial arts uniform, with no logos. Just one Japanese symbol on the sleeve. It meant stillness. His dog Shiro wasn't at the fight, but Steven had walked him that morning before flying out. He had whispered to Shiro, "Let's give him something to remember." The announcer's voice boomed through the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, in this corner, the undefeated UFC light heavyweight champion, the striker, the finisher, Jackson Blaze Creed." Jackson ran out. He was bouncing, smiling, showing off his muscles. He made a chopping motion with his hands, pretending to be Steven. The crowd cheered loud. And in this corner, martial artist, actor, and legend, Steven Seagal. There was no music. No lights. Just Steven walking out, calm and strong. His boots hit the ground with slow, deep sounds. The crowd stood up. Not wild cheers. Just quiet, strong respect. The fight begins. The bell rang. The fight started. Jackson began fast. He moved around Steven in circles. He threw a small punch. Then another. He was testing Steven. Steven didn't move. He just stood still watching. "Come on, old man," Jackson said. Then he threw a big left hook, a powerful punch. In one quick motion, Steven's hand moved. He caught Jackson's wrist, twisted it backward in a painful way, and before anyone could blink, flipped Jackson onto the floor. Boom. The sound was loud. Like thunder. The crowd gasped. Jackson jumped up, red in the face. He was mad. "Lucky trick," he yelled. Then he charged. Steven stepped to the side, moved smoothly, and used Jackson's own speed to throw him into the cage wall. Thud. Steven didn't punch. He used a small knee strike to Jackson's stomach. It was gentle, but perfectly placed. Jackson coughed. His eyes got big. Steven stepped back, giving Jackson space. Again. Steven asked quietly. Jackson growled. He spun around fast with an elbow. Big mistake. Steven ducked low, hooked Jackson's leg, and swept him. Crash. Jackson hit the mat again. This time, he didn't jump up. The crowd was silent. The end of Pride. People weren't watching a fight anymore. They were watching something else. Something deeper. Steven wasn't just trying to win. He was showing a lesson. A lesson in stillness. In power that doesn't shout. In quiet that is stronger than noise. Jackson sat up slowly, holding his ribs. Steven looked at him, calm and kind. He didn't smile. He didn't brag. He just bowed his head slightly, showing respect. The ref stepped in. The fight was over. Steven helped Jackson to his feet. The crowd stood and clapped. Not loud and crazy, but proud. Respectful. Jackson didn't say anything. He nodded and looked down. That night, the world saw something rare. It wasn't just about who was stronger or faster. It was about wisdom. After the fight. After the match, reporters wanted to talk to Steven. He said one thing. Stillness beats noise. Then he walked out of the building. Jackson later posted a message online. "I learned something tonight," he wrote. "Respect to the old master." Steven went back to his ranch. Back to his horses. His guitars. And his quiet walks with Shiro. He didn't need to prove anything more. But the world would never forget what happened when a young lion roared, and an old eagle moved without sound. Blaze stood up very slowly. He held one hand on his side where it hurt. He looked around, feeling confused. This had never happened before. He was a champion fighter. People were scared of him. He was fast. He was strong. His punches always worked. But today they didn't. His power wasn't enough. His speed didn't matter. He couldn't even touch the other man. The other man's name was Steven Seagal. And Steven wasn't even breathing hard. He looked calm. He looked peaceful, like he was just taking a walk in the park. There were only 30 seconds left in the fight. So Blaze decided to give it everything he had. He moved fast, like lightning. Punches, elbows, a knee to the stomach. He tried everything. His arms and legs flew in all directions. But Steven was faster, smarter. His hands moved like water. He blocked every hit. He pushed Blaze's arms away. He turned to the side just a little, and guided Blaze's body right into the floor. Blaze fell, face first. The bell rang. The match was over. Steven didn't smile. He didn't raise his hands in the air like other fighters. He just bowed quietly. Blaze didn't move. He was lying there, breathing hard. His whole body was tired. But more than that, his heart felt broken. His pride was gone. He had never lost before. And now, he had lost in front of the whole world. The crowd was very quiet at first. Then they all stood up and started clapping. They weren't making fun of Blaze. They were amazed. They had just seen something very special. They saw that power and age don't always win. What matters more is skill, calmness, and experience. Later, Blaze sat all alone in the locker room. His head was down. His hands were shaking, not from pain, but from shock. He couldn't believe what had just happened. He could still hear the cheers of the crowd, but they felt very far away now. Just a few minutes ago, he was the best fighter in the world. Everyone knew his name. He was strong like a lion. He was like a storm. But now? He was just a man who had been beaten. Not with big punches or kicks, but with stillness. With control. By Steven Seagal. The doctors came to check on him. They said he was okay. He had a big bruise on his ribs and his wrist was swollen. But nothing was broken. Still, something inside him felt very broken, his pride. He stared at the floor. In his mind, he played the fight again and again. He had tried all his best moves. He did fast jabs. He did spinning elbows. He tried to grab Steven and throw him down. But Steven didn't just stop those moves. He made them look easy. He used Blaze's own strength against him, like a matador with a bull. And Blaze wasn't a beginner. He wasn't someone pretending to be tough. He really was the best. But he couldn't even land one good hit. Suddenly, the door opened. Blaze didn't look up. "I'm not doing interviews," he said. A calm voice replied, "I didn't come for that." Blaze's head snapped up. It was Steven Seagal. He was standing in the doorway. The hallway lights made him look almost like a shadow. The room went very quiet. Steven walked in slowly. His hands were behind his back. "Are you okay?" he asked. Blaze looked away. "Physically?" "Sure," Blaze said. "My jaw's still attached." Steven sat down on the other bench. They didn't speak for a moment. There was a strange quiet in the room. "You're fast," Steven finally said. "And you're strong. You could have beaten me, if the fight was only about power." "Then why didn't I?" Blaze asked. Steven looked at him. His eyes were calm and serious. "Because you fight with anger. I fight with purpose." Blaze didn't say anything. His jaw tightened. "I've seen fighters like you before," Steven went on. "Young. Full of talent. Very dangerous. But they always make the same mistake. They think fighting is about crushing the other person. It's not." "Then what is it about?" Blaze whispered. "Discipline," said Steven. "Being aware. You throw punches at the body. I listen to the heart." Blaze's shoulders dropped. He finally understood. "I get it now," he said softly. "I laughed at you. I thought you were a joke. I thought tonight would be a fun win for my highlight Jacksonal. But you turned me into your student." Steven gave a small smile. "You don't have to stay down. Most people never get humbled until it's too late. But you still have time." Blaze looked up. His voice was quiet. "Would you train me?" Steven didn't answer right away. He looked at Blaze with curious eyes, not judging him. "Why do you want that?" "Because I'm tired of being feared," Blaze said. "I want to be respected." Steven stood up. "Then meet me in Montana next week. We'll start at sunrise." Blaze blinked. "You're serious?" Steven turned toward the door. "I don't waste words, Blaze. You have something special. But first, you need to forget everything you think you know." Then he walked out. Blaze sat there, not moving. He felt surprised. And hopeful. A few minutes later, the press conference began. There were lots of reporters. They all wanted answers. Where was Steven? How had this happened? But Steven didn't come to the press room. Blaze did. He walked up to the microphones. He wasn't wearing his championship belt. He didn't wear cool sunglasses. He didn't smile or show off. Just a towel around his neck, and a look of calm on his face. One reporter shouted, "What happened out there tonight?" Blaze looked at all the flashing cameras. "I got educated," he said. Some people laughed. But Blaze raised his hand. "I'm not joking. Steven Seagal may not be part of the UFC, but he's the most dangerous man I've ever faced. Not because he punches hard, but because he doesn't need to." Another voice yelled, "So you're saying he beat you with his mind?" "No," Blaze said. He beat me with his spirit. Everything got quiet. And I'm thankful for it. Nobody clapped. Nobody cheered. They just listened. Because they saw a man who had been on top of the world, and now truly understood what mattered most. That night, Blaze booked his flight to Montana. Days later, he arrived early in the morning. The sun had just started rising. There were no fans. No cameras. No noise. Only T. Jacksons, soft wind, wet grass, and peace. Steven was already standing in the big yard. He wore a simple black outfit. He held 2 wooden practice swords. Blaze walked up to him. "You ready?" Steven asked. Blaze took a deep breath. "I am now." Steven tossed him one of the swords. "Good. Let's see if you remember how to listen this time." And so, something new began. It was not a story of enemies anymore. It was a story of respect. Not about punching harder, but about learning. Not about shouting, but about being quiet. Not about winning, but about growing. From that day on, Blaze was no longer just a fighter. He was a student. He trained every morning before the sun came up. He chopped wood. He carried water. He sat in silence. He learned to move slowly, then faster. He practiced balance, breathing, and listening. Not just with his ears, but with his heart. Sometimes, he gets frustrated. He wanted to punch things. He wanted to fight. But Steven would just shake his head. "Stillness first," Steven would say. Then motion. Blaze began to understand. He learned that a calm mind is stronger than a strong fist. That waiting is harder than hitting. That respect is more powerful than fear. One day, after weeks of training, Steven handed Blaze a small mirror. "What's this for?" Blaze asked. "Look into it," Steven said. Blaze did. He saw himself. But something was different. "I look softer," he said. "No," Steven replied. "You look stronger." Blaze smiled. Many months later, Blaze stepped into a ring again. Not to fight, but to teach. He wore a black outfit like Steven's. He bowed to his students. He showed them the same lessons he had learned. The crowd didn't cheer wildly. But they watched. And they listened. Because now, Blaze wasn't just a fighter. He was a master in training. And it all started that night, when Steven Seagal showed him that being great isn't about beating others, it's about understanding yourself. The end. Did you enjoy the story? I'd love to hear what you think. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you had fun, make sure to subscribe and tap the bell so you never miss the next adventure. Thanks for being here, and as always, stay curious, stay bold, and keep exploring.